Welcome back to another episode of the Real Table Podcast with your host, Michael Carter. And once again, it's a beautiful day outside, and I am glad to be here. We got some stuff to talk about today. New Planet of the Apes movie just released this past weekend, and I've got some thoughts, and we're going to have a special guest that's going to join us just a little bit later. But this was not even planned. I wasn't planning to do this coming into this episode, but it just so happened a special trailer dropped today. And I watched it and I go, I have to talk about it. I have to react to it, and I have to give just a little bit of thoughts on it. So Wicked. Highly anticipated adaptation on the Broadway musical. Broadway musical that's made famous. Kristen Chenoweth, and Dina Menzel. I think this is the work that really got them to where they are. That really, really started their careers. When they premiered in 03, and since then, Wicked has captivated all audiences. I don't think I've met anybody that did not like Wicked when they saw it. I was lucky enough to see it. On Broadway, not with the original cast, but I was lucky enough to see, to see the stage production of Wicked. And it's been a long time, so I feel like a lot of my thoughts and a lot of my opinions are coming from a place where I feel like I get fresh eyes. There might be people that know this musical inside and out, and they know each layer and each little. I don't know that. I know certain songs, popular, Defying Gravity, For Good, right? But I don't know I cannot recall the ins and outs of the story, right? So this feels like I'm going into this completely fresh, which is super exciting. I don't have to sit and wonder, are we going to do this part? Are we going to play into this part? That's been one of the joys when it comes to watching book adaptions of certain novels. Of certain novels. I don't have a lot of understanding of the work going in, and so I come in with a fresh perspective. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, that's a good example. I never read any of the Hunger Games books. Actually, all the Hunger Games movies are good examples. So each movie felt very, very fresh for me, and I was able to give, a good perspective, a good opinion on it, I felt, right? So this is what I get to do with Wicked. I'm super excited. I'm pumped. We're going to react to this right now. I'm going to watch it. I've watched it already, but I want to watch it again because it's a lot. It's a 3.5 minute trailer, which to some, it's like that's giving away the whole movie. And in a sense, sure. But I feel like if you don't know the story coming in, you're walking in fresh eyes, right? Fresh. Also, before we watch this is a disclaimer, is that this is part one. This is only part one. It's a very, very, very interesting. Very interesting that they didn't market it as Wicked Part 1. It's just Wicked. Now, the starting to think, does this mean that they're gonna tag this, or are they gonna have a completely new title for the second one? They're gonna have an add-on title, or will it just show up as part 2? Will it be like Dune? Because when Dune released, it was just Dune. And then when you watch the movie, it was Dune Part 1, which got a lot of people hyped and going, okay, they're thinking with the intention that they're going to be able to do Dune Part 2. And so I wondered if this was going to happen with Wicked. We'll see Wicked, and they'll say Wicked Part 1, which would allude that there's going to be another one. So, 3.5 minute trailer. Let's watch. Let's see this. It's number 2 trending trailer, or number 2 trending video as of now. It's released 5 hours ago right now. So let's watch it.
Are people born wicked? Or do they have wickedness thrust upon them? You're green.
I am.
Welcome, new students, to Shiz University. Miss
Elphaba.
You can room with Miss Galinda.
Oh, popular. I know about popular. Oh, I saved you some space, by the way.
Do you really think this is fair?
I do not. I was promised a private suite. But thanks for asking.
Please, everyone take your seats. In today's Oz, a real sorcerer who possesses true magic has become all too rare.
Absolutely remarkable.
That was you who made all that happen. How did you do it?
I don't know. I've never known.
You, come with me.
Of course.
Not you. You. You're the one the wizard has been waiting for.
Galinda?
Ew.
I know. It's my granny's. I'd give it away, but I don't hate anyone that much.
Hey.
You should join us tonight. And don't tell me you have nothing to wear. Because you could wear this.
Something has changed within me.
She doesn't give a twig what anyone thinks.
Something is not the same.
Of course she does. She just pretends not to.
The wonderful Wizard of Oz summons you to the Emerald City. Come with me.
What?
To meet the wizard.
I couldn't possibly. This is your moment. I'm coming.
The great and terrible.
Something bad is happening in Oz.
The best way to bring folks together is to give them a real good enemy.
You have no real power.
That's why I need you.
Don't let her get away! This wicked witch.
Don't be afraid.
I'm not afraid. It's the wizard who should be afraid of me.
That looks phenomenal. That looks phenomenal. That looks so good, y'all. 3.5 minutes. It was a lot. It showed a lot. It gave us probably way more than most people would have wanted, but man, we might be looking at the biggest hit of 2024 right there. Bigger than Dune. I think that has the potential to be bigger than Dune. The shots, the cinematography. I know there was some criticism early on about how it looked flat. I can see what people mean. I can see the critique there. With this is the second trailer. Well, the other one was more of a teaser. This is an actual full-length trailer, so I can see the criticism there. I can see the criticism with the color grading and the color palette that we see there. Either way, I think this looks really massive. They went all out. Like the CGI or the green screens, I didn't think any of that looked bad. I didn't see any part that made me go, "Oh, that looks horrible," right? Cynthia looks outstanding. She's going to be the standout. Either her, maybe Jeff Goldblum, could be even Michelle Yeoh. I think Cynthia is going to kill this role. And I remember when they announced that she was going to be playing Elphaba, and I immediately I was like, man, she's going to kill this. She has the vocals, she has the range, she has the acting skills. She's going to kill this role. Ariana, I'm on the fence. Now, again, this is a trailer. There's only so much, but some of those moments, ooh, I need to see. I'm hoping to see more Glenda. It felt flat. It felt like Ariana is acting for the very first time. I can't even remember the last time Ariana acted in Project. Maybe Victorious, which was Nickelodeon. That was a long time ago, but again, it's just a trailer, so there's only so much I can say before actually seeing the final product, but I'm on the fence on Ariana. On the fence. Michelle Yeoh is going to kill it. Already know Michelle Yeoh is going to kill it. Jeff Goldblum is going to kill it. I'm really, really excited about this. The music sounds really good. The singing sounds good. This has the potential. I think this could be a bigger hit than Dune Part 2. It could. And this was one on my list of top 10 movies. This was on that list. I can't remember where I had it. But it was on my top 10 list. But after that trailer, it's going to be really hard for any other movie to beat it. Deadpool and Wolverine is the only other movie I would give, the edge to, of being the biggest hit of 2024. But Thanksgiving, this movie's releasing in Thanksgiving. You've got all the musical theater geeks, all the musical theater kids that sang this in high school. I sang some of that in high school. One of our tradition songs was "For Good," and so you've got a lot of Wicked has hit so many generations that this is going to bring a lot of people into the theater. A lot of people. I'm just thinking of kids now that are maybe 7 or 8 that are huge theater nerds, theater geeks, and they have been exposed to Wicked and they love it. They're going to be so pumped. Some of them have probably already seen the trailer. They're going to be so pumped to go see this movie. And then Ariana Grande's star power is exceptional. So this is a hit, and I'm pumped. I'm really pumped about this movie, and I can't wait to see it. All right. I think it's time we get into the Kingdom Planet of the Apes. And I'm going to bring my special guest on in here, and we're going to get going. Let's get it.
Are you familiar with the concept of evolution? In their time, humans were capable of many great things. No! They could fly like eagles fly. They could speak across oceans. But now, it is our time. And it is my kingdom. We will learn. Apes will learn. I will learn. And I will conquer.
Legend says ape and human lived side by side. Impossible as that may seem.
Why do they hunt her?
She's smarter than most.
The elders did not tell us everything about this world.
Bend for your king.
Apes hunt humans. That is wrong.
Together, you will die.
No, together, strong.
And we're back, ready to talk Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I'm joined by my friend Josiah. Josiah, what's up, man?
Well, what's up?
I'm pumped to hear your thoughts on this movie. You're gonna have better context because we were talking. We were texting. When were we texting? I think we were texting last week or 2 weeks or something like that. But you were rewatching like the older ones, and I didn't have a chance to do that. So you're gonna have better, not better, but like a fresher perspective when thinking about the past trilogy and this new one, this new movie. But yeah, how you been though, bro? How you been?
I've been really good, man. Just taking it one day at a time. I still kind of settling into like being a homeowner and everything. So my movie viewership has been quite down since last year.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine, but things are going well, doing well. We're doing well. Like, can't complain.
Nice. Well, glad to have you on here as always. So let's just do it, dude. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Wes Ball. Early thoughts. You saw this before me. I think when we were also texting, you said you had like, was it passes?
No, it just happened to be an early screening.
Oh, okay.
That I saw was available, so I decided to. It just happened to be on my day off, and
Nice.
It was actually the only time I was able to go with the rest of the week in my schedule. So I was like, "Hey, let's do it,"
Right.
So, yeah.
So, thoughts?
I think it was great. I mean, my first thought, obviously, would have to be with like the motion capture technology.
Yeah.
I think I said in my review on Letterboxd, going back to like the Lord of the Rings, then go into Avatar, then Guardians of the Avengers with the Hulk, and then Guardians of the Galaxy, and then that same year Planet of the Apes. Just the motion capture technology has just gotten so much better over time.
Yeah.
That I mean, I just not only do the apes look like the actors, but they also still look like real apes. So I thought that was just like phenomenal. But everything else I thought was great as well. I mean, just the acting, the world building, the story, I thought was hit all the notes for me, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Same with me. I every single one of those points I felt strongly about after walking out of the movie. It was a different. I think I expected it going in because it takes place after the way after the events of the other trilogy, but I think I expected it. It was just different. It was just a very different approach to where they want to go with the franchise, and it makes me intrigued going forward. Now it's like, okay, like you've opened this whole door and you have this big old sandbox to play in. Now it's like I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do with it.
Yeah, man, definitely. I think they have a lot to work with and a lot to play with, and as long as the writing is creative and still consistently good, I think they can go for a while.
Yeah, that's what I was really surprised by, because Matt Reeves did two of the movies. I think two of the ones that I think people think are some of the best. He did two of those movies, and so I was unsure how Wes Ball would do in keeping what Matt Reeves was doing in the other trilogy, keeping that kind of going, but also not doing that verbatim, because it's a different story, different approach. It's a new chapter. So I think he balanced that super well. Super well.
Definitely.
Yeah. What are your like when looking at this movie and then looking at the other three? What was the first one? The first one Rise?
Right, yes.
So Rise, Dawn, and War, correct?
Correct.
Nice. So when looking at those three, how do you think Kingdom stands?
It's kind of hard to say. I think I will say it's better than I think Dawn is like still like peak, you know. I think if we're talking in terms of like a trilogy, I think the trilogy is comparable to like the Dark Knight trilogy, you know, because like you had Planet of the Apes movies in the past, you had Batman movies in the past, and then they kind of like a new kind of modern, more grounded take on it, and then going from like Batman Begins to the Dark Knight was just like, you know, so I think going from Rise to Dawn, it was just that same jump like you had from Batman Begins to the Dark Knight. So with that in mind, I still think Dawn is the strongest.
Okay.
I think I'll say Kingdom is better than Rise.
Okay.
I don't know. I ran out of time. I didn't get a chance to rewatch War beforehand.
Oh, okay.
But I did see on YouTube there was like this hour-long timeline breakdown starting from Rise going all the way through like the old the 5 original movies.
Right.
So I kind of through that got the refresher that I needed, but I don't know if I think it's better than War, but I think it's better than Rise, definitely.
Okay. Interesting. Now, with the approach, like obviously with a new story, how do you feel about the main character that they went with? It's a completely different character than Caesar, played by Andy Serkis. How do you feel about the main character whose name is Noah? How do you feel?
I liked him. I mean, I think I read like the Wes Ball. I think it was an interview with Wes Ball, and he was saying like the first trilogy was like taking an ape and dropping him into a society that was created by human beings, and this one is just taking an ape and putting him like in the middle of a society that was created by apes and kind of like for apes. So with that, I mean, he's just kind of living his life, and then he's just, you know, he can talk, he can speak, he can do all these things that was started like way long ago. And so it's just interesting seeing him be a kind of like his own character, just this own person living his life, and then, you know, conflict happens. I think that's a very natural thing to happen. And so not saying that he's like a nobody or like not important, but just taking like just a regular ape and then putting him in a story like this, I thought it worked really well.
Right.
Because it's not like The Force Awakens, where people are still coming on the heels of like the Return of the Jedi and all of that, and there's still these characters like in The Force Awakens and going into Last Jedi. Luke Skywalker is still like a very real presence, a very real person, and still alive. Whereas in Kingdom, I mean, it's like a 300-year time jump from War to this, so they have so much space in between War and this to kind of like distance themselves from that, and that's kind of where you get that conflict throughout the film of like, okay, who is Caesar? Who was Caesar?
Right.
What did his words really mean? So I thought that it was nice to just have a blank slate character that's not really connected to any of the previous things in a direct way.
Yep. I when 300, that's a crazy number. I know it says generations, and so 300 is just a crazy number. It's a time jump. It's a huge jump, but it works so well when you think about, you know, where the apes are and where society or the world kind of is at this point. It's like, oh, this makes sense. Like, this took time for it to get to where it is, you know, and we meet these other apes, these bad apes that are just, they're different. They don't know the history. They don't really know it. It got lost somewhere down the line. So, 300 years is crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. Now, this movie was made on 160 million budget.
Really? I didn't know that.
That's, for perspectives for people, that's pretty good budget. That's a cheap budget.
Yeah, definitely.
What are your thoughts on like the fact that a movie that looked as good as it did and felt super epic and big and vast being only 160 million?
I think, like history repeats itself, you know, so you know, in BG and stuff, you learn like about film history and silent era and all of that, and then they were really big into like practical effects and just working with what they had. And then as technology increased, you know, they started being able to do special effects and all of this. And then I feel like it's gotten so flashy, so inflated, so exaggerated that they're pushing, especially with Marvel, but like quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And then the quality started dropping off. Like you've heard plenty of conversation about that the last year or two.
Yeah.
And then what happened with the Creator that came out last year? Everybody was talking about how great that movie looked and how little bit of a budget it was, because Gareth Edwards only had them starting working on the special effects when he knew every single shot that he was going to use. He's like, okay, this is 100%. This is what I'm going to use. Take it and make it look great. I'm not going to like overwork you and then cut out like 90% of what you worked on. And so I feel like we're starting to see that trend with this movie. It's like, okay, lower budget and we're not going to waste it. We're going to make the most of it. And so, yeah, I think this is just another example of it's not how big the budget is, but how you use it. So
now, do you think we're going to start seeing this happen a lot more now? Do you think studios are going to actually buy into that concept and go, we can do that. We can spend less while also achieving something great with the product and putting out a great product, instead of throwing so much money on it and the product looks a little sloppy and messy, etc.?
I think we're going to see that a little bit more with like up and comers and kind of like no names, because you're not Christopher Nolan, you're not Denis Villeneuve, you don't have the filmography to show that you're really good at what you do.
Yeah.
But you're also not like a huge corporation like Disney, to where you have like money coming in from everywhere, where you have money to waste.
Right.
So I feel like you're gonna get a bunch of people that say, just give me a chance. I won't let you down. Give me a chance to prove myself. Or I did this little thing. Look at how that looked.
Yeah.
I can do that. Or look at what Gareth Edwards did with the Creator.
Yeah.
I can do that, you know? So I feel like for people who don't have it, I think they're going to really take it seriously and not waste it. I think that's what you're going to see a lot more. And then when they start outperforming Disney and Marvel and all these other companies, then they're going to really start to go back to the drawing board of what's actually important, and then their quality is going to start,
Yeah.
So.
Okay. All right. I can see that. Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm just, especially like on the Marvel side of things where I feel like there's been a lot of criticism.
Yeah.
And so when they move the slate back, I'm intrigued to see, does that mean they'll still handle things a certain way? Or do they, how does that look for them? So I'll be intrigued to see, how they go about creating visual effects going forward and stuff.
Because I think, not everything in Marvel is bad or has been bad. I mean,
right.
Like last year, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 looked great.
Oh, yeah.
It was still a great movie. So it depends on who they are, what is it that they want to do. I think, like I mentioned a minute ago, it's going to come down to who the director is.
Yeah.
So, who the director is and what they want to do. And that's going to make all the difference. Yes, they have the backing and the money from Disney, but James Gunn still had it locked in and like what he wanted to do, and was taking it seriously, considering that was his last film in Marvel pretty much indefinitely.
Right.
So I think I don't want to like generalize it and say like Marvel and Disney period. It's just individual directors. So it's like here and there we might see some Guardians 3s, but there might still be a lot of Thor Love and Thunders as well. So
right.
So yeah.
Okay. Speaking of, this is completely off topic just for a little bit. Speaking of Thor Love and Thunder, have you been listening? Like Chris Hemsworth, he basically is disowning that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did hear that where he's kind of I guess embarrassed by it, because I think is a natural response, because it's like, all right, coming off of Thor Ragnarok, which is great, you get Infinity War, which was like everybody thinks is like peak Thor,
right?
And from Infinity War you get Endgame, and yeah, it was a little jokey with him like being fat and everything, but they weave that into the story, thinking about how each of them have coped with the loss and the 5-year time jump, and him feeling like he's failing, and then at the end still learning to be a hero and knowing he's still worthy, and deciding not to become king. So it's like, okay, that was part of the story, it was part of his arc, and then to get Thor Love and Thunder after that, and everybody's like, what the heck is this? You know what I mean? So I can see with him in his career right now, like and how much people love Thor, and like him as Thor, and then the way that they ended the fourth one, I could see him wanting to do better, and maybe end his time as Thor on a good note, because I think Robert Downey Jr. ended on a good note, Chris Evans Evans ended on a good note.
Yep.
For the most part, Scarlett Johansson ended on a good note. I still think maybe it would have been better if Black Widow had come out before, like it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Because it's weird getting Endgame and then like that,
Yeah.
And so far, his character Thor's still going, but his last movie has just not been good. So yeah, I can see why he would feel the way that he does, especially since he hasn't really done a whole lot of things outside of Marvel, and I feel like Thor: Love and Thunder could hurt that even more. I mean, I know he's got Mad Max coming out this year, which I'm super. Doesn't that come out like in a week or so?
Next week, I think.
Next week, so I've heard good things about that. I'm excited for that. But I think because he's not, unfortunately, the caliber of actor as like Downey Jr. is, I think he needs to like show that even though the movie's bad, I'm still a good performer, because otherwise, like,
Yep. Now, speaking of that,
okay.
So George Miller, who directs the Mad Max movies and stuff, I don't know if you've read, he said he would be down to direct Thor 5.
Oh, I did not hear that.
It's real articles. Like, he said he would be down to direct Thor 5.
Okay. I mean, I'd be I'd be open to that. I really still love. I haven't watched it in a while, but Mad Max Fury Road. I mean, that movie is just. It's a lot of action, but it works. It makes sense, So I am for that.
Yep. I think that's like whether he gets it or not. I think that's the kind of person they need, to turn that character around, or not around, but like that franchise around. Like, I think they need something fresh now. We got the fresh with what's the third one called? Ragnarok. We got something that was completely different from the first two, and then Love and Thunder kind of. I mean, it was in the same realm, but also way too out there in a way. It was just different. So I think they need something to hone that character back in. I would be cool if he's tapped to direct it. I hope Kevin Feige listens and calls and has a conversation at least. You gotta entertain it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay, so back to the apes. They left the door wide open. Actually, before we even get to the future, can we talk about the villain in Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, definitely.
Proximus Caesar. Did I say that right? I think I said it right.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Proximus Caesar, dude?
So it's not. I just wanted a little bit more from him. Not that I didn't think he was. Not that he wasn't a great villain or anything. I thought he was, but it was just a lot of him talking.
Yeah.
And then I want to get in here. I want to get these weapons, and then that was kind of it. So then he goes in, like spoilers, obviously.
Yeah.
But then he goes in. They flood the place like almost immediately, and then the last time he shows up is when they're on the cliff, and he's trying to like use Noah as an example, and then he gets attacked by some eagles and falls off and dies. So I was like, I wanted like I just want a little bit. I feel like they could have done a little bit more with him.
Okay.
But I thought he was great. I mean, I like his whole. I still think about that monologue he gave about where he says like, "Oh, he's like, we will learn, apes will learn, I will learn, and then I will conquer." So how he ends it with first, it's all kind of about apes, and then he says me, and then I'm gonna conquer. And the fact that he was able to, which kind of blows my mind, going back to the previous trilogy, how he was able to get gorillas to follow him, because gorillas are like the strongest of the great apes. So it's like the fact that he's not a gorilla and the gorillas were still,
following.
So I loved his character. I love like what his goal was, what he wanted to do. But I just wish they just made him used a little bit more.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I loved his character.
Yeah, I think that was. I don't know. I do think like there were gaps in this movie where I'm like, I feel like every moment obviously had a purpose. But to your point, I'm like, I would have loved to see more of him too. And I felt like if we can, like, the movie's 2 hours and 25 minutes, if we can somehow cut out 10 to 15 and make it flow, make it flow a little bit better, while keeping, I felt like the story kind of somewhat dragged, and I needed it. There were cool action moments throughout the movie that they layered throughout, which was really cool. But I thought there was some moments where kind of dragged, where I'm like, I wonder if you can fill those moments with a character like him. Because we don't see him. I thought we would see a little bit more of him earlier on, but we don't, which is fine. I get it. It's kind of like a build up. But then when you finally see him, it feels like, oh, this is kind of like where it's starting to really ramp up.
Mm-hmm.
So,
because he wanted to get the guns, they go in there, and then it's like immediately they like flood it. Like he doesn't get his hand on a gun. There's none of that. Where it's like, if you think of, I'm not saying that by doing this, it would have been better. Like, and I'm not saying that they should have like rehashed it, like definitely not. But like, what happened in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? Koba gets guns, he shoots Caesar, then he has a big old war using guns and all this other stuff. So it's like with Caesar, it's like I want to grow, I want to learn. Talking about evolution, and then for them just to flood the place, and then that's it. And he's just standing there talking. It's just like,
Yeah, I get you.
So,
yeah, what an interesting character, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now to what I was thinking about previously, the future. Where do you think they could go now? And you can talk spoilery here, just to,
there's a couple different answers, I guess. So one would be, and I think one maybe I would like to see is in the original franchise, the last movie is called Battle for the Planet of the Apes, and essentially it's like, the fourth one, the apes have been liberated or whatever, and then it's like they created their own little city in their society, but then there's like somewhere, I can't remember where, but like close by, there's a city of humans that live there, and they're like, well, there's apes are nearby, they're going to try to expand and take over, so we got to go in there and kind of like wipe them out in a way. So then there's kind of like a battle between these humans and the apes, and I think they could do it differently than in Dawn or in War, because it's like, in this sense, where Kingdom ends, you see, what'd she say her name was? May?
Yeah, May.
She goes and delivers that computer chip thing to people who are still trying to work on getting the satellites back online and stuff. So, and then you have Noah, it's like, you know what? No, like, we're still going to live. We're not going to trust humans, and we're going to live, and we're going to adapt with basically what we've learned. So it's like, we've learned something too, and we're going to use this to our advantage and better ourselves. So I can still see there's still that conflict, that the battle for the planet has still not been resolved to the point where the original was, where it's like apes are still the number one dominant. Because I don't know if you've ever seen the original one.
No, I haven't. My roommate says I need to, though.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, I'm sure you, by this point, especially watching the old ones, you know what the big twist is, but like astronauts, they go up in space, they get lost, they wake up, and they're like 1,000-something years in the future or something.
Yeah.
And then they think they're on an alien planet where apes are the dominant and humans are not. And then at the end of the movie, that's when he finds out he's been on Earth the whole time.
Yeah.
But because of like war and stuff, humanity's finally destroyed itself, which allowed the apes to remove and take over.
Yeah.
So I guess Kingdom still kind of feels like in that midway point where there's still humans that can talk, still humans, because, in the original, they were like kind of dissecting humans. And there was a little bit of that, like thinking they're like animals and they can't talk and all of that. And so when Taylor, the astronaut's there, and he just hurt his neck and healed his throat, and he could talk, they were like blown away. And he was explaining like, I'm from the past, like, and all this stuff. So since it feels like Kingdom is kind of in that midway point, there could be some more conflicts. But I think my only fear with continuing would be the same thing with kind of like The Walking Dead. I feel like at some point it's just the same story over and over and over. You can use different characters, you can do different locations all you want.
Yep.
But it's still essentially the same stories. You're either fighting against other humans, and some of them are real mean and nasty, or you're fighting against the walkers. So I feel like at some point you're going to run out of things that you could do with it. But I don't think we're close to that point yet.
What's so interesting, this is it recent? This is kind of recent. They have a 9-movie saga planned.
I just heard about that today.
What do you think about, like, what you just brought up? It's real, it's perfect, it is so valid, and I agree 100% with it. Like, after some point you go, how much more can we tell of this story before it gets very redundant. What are your thoughts on a 9 movie already planned out? 9 sagas.
I mean, I guess time will tell. I think that we're gonna have some winners and then we're gonna have some losers. I don't think that. I feel like that's just with any franchise. You know, like okay, the Predators. How many Predators movies have they made? There's been some really good ones, and there's some bad ones.
Yeah.
With the Alien franchise, with the X-Men movies, there were some really good ones, and there were some really bad ones, and you just pick and choose which ones you like and which ones you don't. And you know, it's never, because I know people have probably felt that way about the new trilogy. It's like, why are we making Planet of the Apes? We already had this. But then the fact that they went back in time and kind of did like the origins,
right,
and kind of set that up and made it a real like kind of grounded story, and all of that, it kind of brought new life to it. But at some point, you're still going to hit the same problem. At some point, people are going to say, you can only get, like, you got to get back to the present day of like where the first movie was at some point.
Yeah.
And then it's just like in between that, you can only do this like so many times. There's going to be apes, and there's going to be humans, or there could be apes versus other apes. And I mean, so I don't think it has. I think they're going to change it very soon. They say 9 now, but maybe after 1 or 2 more, they might say like, okay, 9's not really going to work. How many people are still going to go out and see 9 more Planet of the Apes movies? So, I think time will tell. But I don't think. I think this is their most ideal world. It's probably driven by money,
right?
But I think reality's going to hit them like pretty fast.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Because I think
100%.
So Rise of the Planet of the Apes came out in 2011, so that's already 13 years between that and this one. So you're thinking 9 more years? I don't think people are going to watch Planet of the Apes movies for another 15 years.
Yeah, that's crazy perspective right there. 11. That's wow.
Because it was like 11, 14, then I think 17.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think if Dawn wasn't so good, people wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
And then, you know, from 17 to now, that's still, what, 6-7 years?
Mm-hmm. There's a gap. Nice little gap.
So there's still even a gap. And it did well, but I don't think you could do 9 more years of this.
Yeah. It's too much. I agree. I'm down for 2 more movies to kind of see where this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you can wrap it up and be okay and be really solid.
Because I think the way they ended this one, it's like it doesn't even have to be like the same characters for the next one.
No.
Because it's just where they are in time. It's so open. And he's just like, all right, we're going to keep doing what we do. And then took the thing to the people, and they're doing what they do to kind of symbolize, I guess you say, like the humans are still fighting, trying to come back. But I don't really see what else you could do with Noah, because I still think they were pretty cordial, May and Noah, when they left.
Yeah.
I think he was still like, yeah, you know what? He was right. Like, I don't really trust you. And then she had that gun behind her back. But it didn't seem like they were planning on having any more conflict after that. So they would probably have to just start all over again.
Yep. We didn't talk about May, but speaking of May, what did you think? I thought she was fine.
Yeah, I think. Do you watch any like reviews for movies?
Sometimes, not a lot.
Okay. Because I think I watched the review for Jeremy Johns for this movie, and I liked the way he phrased it, because he was saying sometimes it kind of feels like the movie kind of loses sight on who's the main character, because sometimes it makes it seem like May, and then sometimes it seems like, and then it was like, he said he felt the same way he did in the Transformers movies with the human characters. Like, they're like, we're telling a very human story, but how can we relate this story to the audience? It's like, oh, by having these humans kind of being there. And I'm like, wow, when he says that, it makes sense, because it's like, you want to see the Transformers, and I guess there's always been humans there, but it's always been the Transformers with humans, not I'm humans and there's Transformers coming into my world. So with this one, it's like May, I think they involved her in the story a little too much in that aspect. Where if you look at with War, like Noah was there, Nova, my goodness, Nova was there, but she was just talking to that girl, and she was just kind of there.
Yeah.
And that kind of caused some like internal conflict because at that point Caesar was like, I'm done with humans, but Maurice was like, she's hopeless, we can't just leave her, so she's coming despite what you say, like, I'm sorry.
All right.
So she was just like there, but it wasn't like she was sharing the movie with them.
Right.
And I feel like with May, I kind of was like that. Like I did like some of the things they did with her character with Noah and his friends, but I feel like it was a bit too much.
Too much, yeah. That's
so.
Okay.
Yeah.
It reminds me of.
What do you think?
I just like there were some moments where I was like, oh, her character adds value, but overall, I'm like, yeah, I could do without her or do without how much of her involvement. It reminds me kind of I think about the latest the Kong and Godzilla movie where I'm like, I still liked how some of those human characters, they were there, but the movies were really mostly about the monsters. You know, we had plenty of scenes where it was just Kong and like Scar King. Like it was just all these monsters and there was no dialogue. Like we were just dealing with the monsters and not all these human interactions. So that's what I think about.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen the new one yet, but I know what you mean because I've seen all the ones before the latest one.
Yeah.
And I think there was a lot of that where I'm like when they finally go to like the center of the earth or something like that.
Yeah.
And then Kong gets like attacked by one of those things and they like shoot it to like help him. Like, why can't you just have Kong solve his issues on his own without the humans having to be there to help him out? It's like they're just doing too much with like the human aspect. So I can, even though I haven't seen it, I understand like your point in that where it's like, I'm glad to hear that in those aspects, they focus more on the monsters. Cause that was an issue that I had with the first Godzilla movie where it's like, it was kind of cool from that perspective where he was kind of hidden in the airport when his foot comes down, they're all like, but then it was like, I came to see Godzilla. Like, I don't want to see. I don't care about Aaron Taylor Johnson trying to get back to his wife or whatever. I want to see Godzilla be Godzilla. You know, what I mean? Right. And that's what I love about Godzilla -1. So
yes. And the way they make the character human, like giving them emotions. You know,
so that was good. And I think the way that they handled the humans in their first 3 Planet of the Apes movies were great. I think it was necessary. It was pivotal because it flows all the way through Koba. You know, he was experimented on, so he hates humans. Where Caesar's like, hey, I was still raised by them. I see that they're not all bad, you know. And then at the end, he was like, okay, you guys are just like killing me for no reason, killing us. So it's like, I'm done. You're human. You're going down. Whereas this one, it's like again, we're so far removed from that we don't necessarily need to have a central human character in this story.
Yep, we don't.
So, you know,
completely different world.
Yep, completely different.
Nice. Any last thoughts on Kingdom Man? Any last thoughts?
You know, like you said, I was nervous because you know, one thing I will say. Even though Matt Reeves directed 2 out of the 3, I still think the trilogy flows together like seamlessly. And so with Matt Reeves, what he's doing, what he did with the Batman, I think I saw the first Maze Runner movie, but I didn't really think much of it. I didn't really like the book, but I didn't see anything else, so I didn't know anything really about West Ball. And then not having Andy Serkis back was a big like loss, but I still think the movie they delivered was really solid. I really liked it. The performances, the cinematography, just the world building. How now there's apes that are training eagles, or they raise eagles, and all of that. I like that aspect. So I thought it was really solid. I'm glad they made it, and I think it definitely adds. It doesn't. I don't think it hurts the trilogy at all. I think it just goes together with it very well. So
this gets me excited about the Zelda movie because Wes Ball is helming that.
I heard of that.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see like what he does now that he has. I feel like this movie gives him some good backbone. You know. So it'll be interesting.
Definitely.
All right, Josiah, bro. Appreciate you joining me on this episode, Talking Kingdom. As always, we're going to have to get you back on here and talk more movies and whatnot. So, bro, I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Everybody else, as always, thank you for tuning in to the Real Table Podcast. We out of here. We're going to see y'all later. Peace. Once again, thank y'all so much for joining me today on the Real Table Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and even comment. I want to hear your thoughts and I want to hear your opinions. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Real Table Pod and on Twitter at The Real Table. And don't forget to also check me out on therealtable.com for news, articles, and reviews. I will see y'all soon. Peace.